this is pretty common with dogs. They love it when their guardians sing to them. Like, I'm having a hard time understanding what they want me to do. Could they put it into song form for me? So that's always fun to be like, you're gonna have to sing to them about using the potty outside. But it's true. Dogs love to hear people sing to them.
Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. I'm Linda Christine. Today I had a beautiful conversation with Kristen Brewster. And Kristen is an animal communication person. She talks with pets, she talks with wildlife, she communicates with the trees and the plants. She is pretty amazing, and I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. Kristen also has a son with special needs, and we talk a little bit about that as well. So her story is a beautiful story, and it is a great teacher. And like everybody else that we have on here, I would encourage you to please like, share, and subscribe, because this is the way these beautiful stories get heard, and they have wonderful lessons in them for everyone who watches. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Kristen. Welcome, Kristen. It's so wonderful to have you on today. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Your audio is great. The video is a little bit sluggish, so everybody just bear with us on that. But welcome to the podcast, and I'm really curious, how did you get to where you are today? What led up to that?
Oh, it's been a long journey. Definitely a lifelong journey. Yeah, I've always loved animals ever since I was little, and always was communicating with different parts of nature. Probably didn't realize it at the time until I was much older and kind of had a better idea what was going on. But yeah, once I got involved with energy work and started learning Reiki and you know, uh, IET, I also learned. Once I started getting into that, and something inside me just kind of exploded open, and now I can talk to animals.
What were some of your most early memories of actually communicating with the animals?
My earliest memory, I don't even know. I was maybe 2 or 3. I was very little, and I remember we were at my aunt's house in the countryside, and one of my cousins was much older than me, and he there were a family of little tiny bunnies living there on the farm, and he grabbed one for me, and it was just a little tiny little thing. And I remember sitting in a lawn chair, and he put it in my hands, and I held it right up here, and I knew it was terrified, and I just wanted to make it feel better. And like normally, like, you just don't want to let go. They're so sweet, and all I could think of was I have to let it go because he's so scared. I think that was my very first memory of actually speaking with an animal.
Now, were your parents or family, were they aware of your gift, or did you keep that hidden?
Um, I was definitely always kind of known as like the weird one who had, I had imaginary friends, and um, I was a little more attached to uh, animals and plants than anybody else that they knew. So I don't think they knew exactly to the extent that I could communicate, but I knew that I had a special connection.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you communicate with plants too?
I can, yes.
So what does that look like? I'm very curious about that.
Um, it's very personal. It's just unfortunately, usually it's when a plant is being, cut down, or flower gets picked when it doesn't want to be, that kind of thing. It's usually under a traumatic experience for the plant, unfortunately. But I do have a few trees in my backyard that I can just kind of sit under, and um, it's not like a conversation like you and I have. It's a more like a universal language conversation. So it's more of a knowing that this tree wants me to feel supported, or that this tree has been watching me do something and agrees with what I'm doing in the yard, or something along that lines.
I had a very strange experience with a tree once where I felt compelled to lay my hands on it. And when I did, I got like this split-second snapshot. It was just like thousands of pictures of time happening, like everything that the tree had seen.
Ooh, that gives me goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah,
Have you
they
ever
watch. They
experienced anything
definitely
like
watch.
that?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, trees are watching us. Not in a creepy way, but in a loving, like, just, you know, they see what we do and they see what we're going through, and they have nothing but love, love and respect for us.
I I am not alone when I say I just adore trees. So many people do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see it all over the internet all the time. Um, what are some of the things that we get wrong when it comes to plants or trees?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that they don't have feelings when they absolutely 1,000% have feelings. They feel happiness, they feel sadness, they hurt, they empathize with us. Um, they're sentient beings just like you and me.
Now, do they move at a different speed? Are they able to see us in real time, or are things slowed down?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've never I've never gone into that topic with them, but that would definitely be interesting. And right now, it's coming to me that maybe it might be different, for a giant oak tree than it is for a petunia in your garden. They might see things very differently depending on their longevity and how long they're on Earth with us.
What do trees have? I mean, I know the purpose of them in our world, but what is the greater purpose that the trees are living out on the planet?
I think I think they're here just to support us. Um, they're steadfast. They're always watching over us. Kind of like, a spirit guide or a guardian angel. They're just always there. And I think they, emanate love. They put love out into the universe, just as much as they do oxygen or anything like that. So, without them, it would be a totally different place.
It definitely can feel their majesty when I'm around, especially the big live oaks that we
Yeah,
have down here in
yeah.
the south. What kind of communications do you have with them? What kinds of things have you learned from trees or any plant?
Um, I've learned patience. Um, just I the biggest thing I think I learned is I have a son with a disability. He has a developmental delays, and he is very drawn to trees as well. And I just they're so welcoming to him. And I think it's helped me realize, like, it doesn't matter who you are, what your understanding of the world is, like trees are just always there for you. They just want to, be with us and grow with us and learn with us. The wisdom that comes from these trees and plants, is just unbelievable. They witness so much more than we even think about, not
Hmm.
only from people, but from animals. They see it all. They have a bird's eye view.
Let's move to the animals now. What does your family think about your gift?
Um, my husband thinks it's very interesting. He's a journalist, so he asks me questions about it all the time, and I think he's plotting about writing a book about it.
Oh, that's
He's
amazing.
an
I love that
animal
idea.
communicator. So he's definitely very intrigued. Um, my mother, when she was alive, was very supportive of it. She thought it was just the coolest, and I was always getting messages. Hey, can you talk to my cat? I think she's not feeling good. Hey, can you talk to my dog? She's acting funny. Um, and then I have other family members who just kind of pretend like it's not a thing, which is totally fine. um, yeah, my teenage daughter, sometimes she thinks it's very cool, and sometimes she thinks it's weird, but overall, she's pretty interested into it. And the older she gets, the more I think she realizes she can do the same thing. So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a family business.
That's amazing. So, do you feel, Kristen, this is something people can learn to do for themselves? And how would they do that?
Yeah, I think everybody has the potential to do it, to a certain extent. I think a lot of it just depends on how open you are to the experience. I think a lot of people do it without even realizing it. How many people have conversations with their animals and they think that it's one sided, but it probably isn't. you know, even if you think you're not communicating with them, you are. Um, and and they're communicating with you all the time. Yeah, more so than I think anybody realizes. I definitely think, um, everybody has the potential to learn.
How does it come through for you? I mean, we'll start with that. How does it come through for you?
Usually, what I see is, I see like it's almost like watching a movie on a screen, and I also see snapshots, like photographs. Sometimes I will also, see a word written or hear a word. And then also occasionally, this is my least favorite, but I can smell sometimes, which can be very unfortunate when the animal has digestive problems, but it's also helpful.
So it's primarily a visual
Yeah.
receiving for you. Now, do you have to tap
Yeah.
in a certain way, or what does that look like?
Normally what I do is I go into a kind of a deep meditative state and, just get really centered, quiet my mind. And I have a short, like, meditation, a guided meditation that I go through. Um, Sometimes in my dreams, they'll come to me after I've already talked to them. So it's like once I've opened up that channel with the animal, it's pretty easy for them to reconnect with me.
So, how did you know you were on to something pretty pretty amazing here? Like, what was some of your first readings that you did where you got some amazing confirmation?
Um, I actually had a fairly traumatic experience on a walk with my family. Was the first time that I was like, "Whoa, something's going on here. Like, this is not just a little thing that we're talking about." I had a vision of a cat walking down the street and a car hitting the cat. Um, just in my mind's eye, I saw the whole thing happen, just like watching it on a movie screen as we were walking down the street. And I gasped out loud and I was like, oh my God, this is not good. We have to turn around. We have to turn around. And right as I said that, here comes the cat in real life. Here comes the car screaming down the street. And sure enough,
Oh.
we, it happened. And I think it freaked everybody out. Everybody that was on the walk with us. My husband was like, what just happened? And I was, obviously very upset about the cat who was nowhere to be found. Um not sure what happened to the cat. We weren't able to find it, but um that was my first real big like, whoa, I've got something here that most people don't have kind of moment. And then from there, it just kind of blew up. I had more and more opportunities to help people out. And I think the more I do it, the stronger it gets for me.
So, what are some of the stories that stick out the most to you that were pretty interesting that you can share?
Um, I think it would be okay to share. I have one client who lives on a large property, and I love to work with her and her wildlife on her property because most of them won't talk to me. I have to talk to her chipmunks. She has chipmunks that live on outside of her house, and they act as like the property guardians. So I always have to go through the chipmunks to find out what exactly is happening, and I I swear I couldn't make it up if I tried. Some of the things that they say, they're so like uh, every animal, has a different personality, and these chipmunks are so formal that they'll write out like a letter. Like I have to actually write a letter out to my client. Like it's hilarious, and I love talking to them. They always remind me of like the Chippendale Rescue Rangers, but a little more a little more formal than they were.
So, what about like pets that people have?
Mhm. Yeah, I've worked with all kinds of pets from, like uh, dogs and cats to donkeys, chickens, everything. Uh, it never ceases to amaze me that like I I just had a conversation with a cat. Like I think it's just the neatest thing ever. And when you get confirmation from the owner that like, oh, that makes total sense. I understand what you're talking about. Like it just makes me so happy.
Like, what are some of the things that some of the pets have said to you?
um I love this is pretty common with dogs. They love it when their guardians sing to them. Like I'm having a hard time understanding what they want me to do. Could they put it into song form for me? So that's always fun to be like, um, you're gonna have to sing to them about using the potty outside. Um, but it's true. Dogs love to hear people sing to them, and I think it's just so precious.
That is
um,
funny. Have you ever gotten any attitude from a pet?
yes, I made the mistake once of referring to a cat's a guardian as their owner, and they were like, no, 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 nobody owns me. And they definitely put me in my place. So they are, I now make sure that I don't refer to any, anyone as an owner. They're always a friend or a guardian or pet parent, that kind of.
Has there ever been a situation where the pet just didn't want to communicate with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Occasionally they'll say, this is not the time. I don't know you. I don't want to talk to you. Um, it's very important. I always struggled with this at the beginning. I have to make sure that the pet's parent or guardian always tells their animal, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. I've talked to a lady who's going to try to connect with you." Otherwise, it can really freak them out sometimes, and they're like, stranger danger. Like, I'm not going to talk to this person. I don't know who they are, especially if they're very skittish or scared. Um, otherwise.
What how do you tap into the pet? How do you reach out to them?
Yeah. So I learned in Reiki about um, making a mental Reiki room in your thoughts. So that's um, usually what I do is I invite the animal to come to my Reiki room, in my mind, and generally they're willing to come. A lot of times, if it's more of a wild animal or a farm animal, I'll meet them out on the porch of my Reiki room. Um, or in a pasture nearby. And sometimes, I kind of have to ad lib to make the animal feel more comfortable reaching out to me. But, and it's just this space in between me and the animal. I'm not really sure where it is, but it's somewhere out there in the universe.
Wow, that's incredible. So what other kinds of things do you do, Kristen? Is it mostly just the animal stuff, or are you I do know you spend a lot of time tending to your son and
Yeah.
his needs.
Yep. I'm definitely full time caregiver, and I also work at an elementary school. So um, that definitely keeps me busy. I have, pets of my own. I have three dogs right now and one cat. Um, my husband always asks me, talk to the dogs, tell me what they're talking, what they're feeling. And it is so hard for me to work with my own animals. It's very frustrating, but I think I'm just too closely connected to them, and I'm too attached to the outcome to really connect with them very well. So but they definitely keep me busy. I love to dote on all of them.
Now, are you okay talking about your son? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you able to tap in to his higher self, his consciousness, and communicate that way if you're having issues with him face to face?
So my son is nonverbal.
Okay.
So I feel like a lot like my animals, I'm not really able to connect with his higher self, which is also very frustrating for the both of us. But I mean, I do feel like to an extent, maybe that's helped me, you know, constantly trying to pick up his, um, nonverbal communication maybe helps me pick up, um, you know, on energy and vibrations a little bit easier, which I think definitely will translate to animals for me. Um, yeah.
How what kinds of things have you, because I know these kids that come into our lives are very special,
Mhm.
and they come with some very special challenging lessons too. What kinds of things have you learned from him?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start with that. I think the biggest thing I've learned is just to meet people where they're at. Um, you can't always expect somebody to do what you think that they're going to do, and that's okay. They're just, everybody has their own timeline and their own schedule, and you have to be respectful of that. Um, it's taught me patience. It's taught me empathy. It's taught me um, to see the good in little things more than the big picture. Um, you know, I'm trying to think that my son drank out of a water fountain the other day, and I about lost it. Like something so simple. I mean, he's 16 years old, so that was a very big thing for me for the first time to see my child drink out of a water fountain. Was just like, what are you doing? Like, where did you learn that? Um, and it just brought me so much joy, and I'm pretty lucky. I know that most 16-year-old parents of 16-year-olds don't get that same amount of joy from such little things like that. So I know that I'm very fortunate for that.
Hmm. What a beautiful lesson. Um, he's such a handsome young man too. I've
Thank
seen
you.
pictures on your social media.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's where do you see things unfolding for you in the future, Kristen, with this pet communication that you're doing and all of that? Or are there other things that you're dabbling in?
I don't really know what my vision is. I will 1,000% continue to help people, to help animals as much as I can. I would love to see it, turn into a full-time job eventually, where I can, and all of my time doing that. Um, just, I mean, it's so fulfilling, and makes me feel so good to know that I'm able to help animals and their people. Um, I The more that I do it, the more I have relatives pop up. So that might be, something that develops more in the future. Being
Like
able
you
to,
mean like deceased relatives?
yes. Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's exciting and big.
Tell me how that what happens with that, some of the stories around
Yeah.
that.
Well, sometimes some of the animals I work with have crossed over the Rainbow Bridge. They're, in heaven or wherever you like to think that they are. And a lot of times I'll have relatives who have also crossed over tell me, make sure Susie knows that I've got the dog. The dog is with me. We're having fun. Everything's okay. Things like that. And they'll say, and tell her red rose or, something like that. And I'll be like, oh, okay. And of course, I have to tell them, like, I can't hold that out. And uh, it puts me in a very vulnerable feeling. Be like, hey, by the way, I don't know if you know of a person that has, short blonde hair and used to wear cargo shorts all the time, but he says he has the dog and he gives you a red rose. And usually it ends up with happy tears so far. But um, yeah, that's definitely something that happens more and more in my reading. So I, I think there's a strong trend in that direction.
So tell me a little bit about the deceased pets and how
Mhm.
that communication might differ, or how does that work? What kind of messages are people usually looking for there?
Yeah, well, as far as communication wise, it's almost exactly the same to me. Um, we meet in that same um, space in between, and yeah, it doesn't really make a difference if they're here physically or if they're crossed over. I can still speak with them just the same. Usually, I mean, the messages are always like, "Don't worry about me. Everything's fine now. I'm so happy." Um, they're still with you. A lot of times, you'll say, when she's at work, I lay down by her desk, things like that. So it's really sweet to know, and comforting to me to know as a pet lover that even after they've crossed over, they're still with us. They still spend, holidays with us. They know that you're decorating for Halloween or that you're missing them, and you saw their leash the other day and it made you sad. Like they're there for all of that, and they know, and they just still want you to be happy and still have the same amount of love for you. It's always very touching.
Now, this is something I've always wondered because animals reincarnate like we do, right?
They can. Hmm.
So I had a teacher tell me once that usually when pets are ready to cross over, that they will know their next mission already and be very excited for that. Have you experienced anything like that?
I've not I've not experienced that yet. It doesn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me to hear that, to hear an animal tell me that kind of thing. Um, I I would think, I mean, it would make sense to me that they would also be able to kind of, be in two places at the same time, like, crossed over, but then also, in a different life. That wouldn't surprise me to hear either.
Kind of like how there we as humans view life as a time as linear, where it really is happening all at once, all
Right.
at the
Like
same time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
absolutely.
completely would make sense to
Yeah.
me, that
Hmm.
there could be fractals all over the place of the
Right.
animals just like us.
And I have been hearing a lot lately. This keeps coming up for me. It's kind of funny, that especially cats are able to shapeshift. Um, like I read a story or heard it, I'm not sure which, about a cat who was borrowing another cat's body. Like this cat had crossed over and sometimes wanted to go visit his family, so he would shapeshift into this. Like the cats would swap. you know, the cat that had crossed over would take on the other cat's body, and the other cat would just, his soul would just go someplace. I'm not sure where. And so the cat was able to, go visit his family, and he would still like bring them mice and leave them in front of the door, and so that the family knew that he was still around. And when he was ready to go back, they would swap back and go about their day. But yeah, I think all of that stuff is possible, and it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. And I think it's hard for us to wrap our minds about around that kind of stuff. But it's definitely a thing that happens. Is happening. Did
Is it
happen.
is it the same for animals like humans? We're learning that we choose our families that we come
Mhm.
into. Is it the same way for the animals?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. They definitely pick. Um, yeah, they pick their missions. They pick their lessons, I think.
And are they here to support us, or do they have their own things to carry out?
I think both. I think some of them, you know, I I think it's both for all of them. They have their own things they're supposed to learn. Um, we're supposed to support them. They support us. We learn from them. They learn from us. It's definitely goes both ways.
Wow. I keep thinking back to that shape-shifting cat. That's
It's
amazing. I
it's
keep now
amazing.
there's
Yeah.
this little black kitty down the street that sees me every morning on my walk, and she runs up
Hmm.
to me and she loves me so much. And I'm like, oh, I want to take you home. And
Oh,
but she's a wild cat that these people take care of and got her
yeah.
fixed and everything, and she lives outside, but she literally runs up to me every morning. And
Hmm.
now I'm like, do I know
Makes you
you?
wonder. Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe from this life, or maybe from one of your past lives. Like it could be anything.
Wow, that's so amazing. So amazing. So, w- how does the ascension, for lack of a better term, because I really don't care for the word ascension, but we are evolving in consciousness. Our consciousness
Mhm.
is raising on the planet. What And we are experience all a myriad of symptoms from that. What are pets feeling during this time?
I think pets are picking up on our stress and our anxiety that we experience. Um, and I think that they pick up on those vibes and the energy and they experience it for themselves. They take on a lot of our energy and our feelings. Um, I think I'm, popularity in vegetarianism and veganism, is part of that. People realizing that these things have feelings. Um, uh, and maybe just more like ethical farming, those kinds of, you know, things that are being put into place. People think about a little bit more, how farm animals are being treated. And um, I'm thinking especially like with chickens, poor chickens. People, they have feelings, and they don't deserve to be, you know, kept in some of the conditions that they're kept in, along with, pigs and cows and stuff like that. I'm not saying that I'm against eating meat or using their products, but I think, their last day should be the worst day of their life, not the best day of their life, where they're put out of their misery. Um, so I think that's a large part of the ascension process. Just learning that it's not all about humans, it's about everybody, including the littlest of the little. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Definitely the biggest thing that I get is that animals don't want us to feel stressed because it makes them feel bad. And um, even if you put on a happy face in front of them, pretend like nothing's wrong, and use your sing-song voice around them, they know how you're feeling. And so they really want you to find joy in your life, and not worry about the big stuff. Just be in the moment and focus on right now. And yeah.
It feels like all animals are natural healers.
I would agree with that for sure. I think, yeah, and I think different animals probably heal in different ways. Um, like we know from dolphins, dolphins are very healing creatures, but so are cats. Um, they're just, they're different animals, so they're going to heal in different ways.
I just learned about dolphin birth the other day, like with humans. Have you heard
Oh,
of that
yes, I
at
have
all?
heard of it. Yeah, sounds very interesting.
Wow. And have you ever communicated with a dolphin
I
or whales?
oh, I've not. No, I think I have communicated with an elephant. This is actually our zoo up here, the Syracuse Zoo, had an elephant that just had twins, which was shocking because elephants don't have twins. And it was all over the news recently. And I about blew a gasket because that same elephant had come to me in my dreams multiple times, asking me for help and for healing and telling me that it was scared. And I was just like, like, okay. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and get out of bed and like go, send Reiki to this elephant that I had no idea, what was going on. I couldn't like find out. I knew it was something about having a baby, but it wasn't until I saw in the news that, this elephant that's 90 miles away from me just gave birth to twins, and it was a exact same elephant from my dream. And I was just like, oh my gosh, sometimes I wonder if I'm like making this all up in my mind. Like, am I crazy? But
So what has she come to you since she's given birth?
she came to me one more time after, and I saw her babies, and it was like, everything's okay, thank you.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing. So now
yeah.
they're seeking you out.
Yeah, I was like on the phone with my mentor even before I knew about the elephant giving birth to twins. I was like, this elephant came to me and it was so weird. And then, when that happened, we were just like, oh, that's crazy.
Wow. Any other exotic animals?
I always have a hard time going to zoos.
I do
um,
too.
they're, I mean, usually the animals are happy, but it is a lot of like, it's almost like sensory overload for me because there's so much like clatter, noise in my head from the animals. I think when they pick up on somebody who can hear them, they're very excited to like to talk. and and just the commotion of them talking amongst each other, I can pick up on also. I can't always, I have to like really tune in to hear what exactly they're saying, but otherwise it's just kind of uh like snow on your TV, like you hear that like that white noise like in a sound. um so I can hear it, but I try not to eavesdrop. By the end of the trip, I'm usually like, oh gosh.
So one thing that came to me that I forgot to mention earlier. I loved what you said about the animals. Their last day of their life should not be their best because they
Mhm.
want to exit. What about plants? Plants have feelings too. And I've always wondered this because I tried to be vegetarian for a while. I got very
Mhm.
sick. It wasn't right for my body.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I am
I've
all
had the same
about
experience. Yeah.
I am all about ethical
Hmm.
farming and all of that. Um, do the plants, how do they feel about all of this?
Um, so what I've picked up on is that plants would like to be thanked. If you have a garden in your yard, when you go to pick that tomato off, thank it. Like, thank you for producing this tomato for me. I appreciate it. I'm going to eat it to nurture my body. Um, and I think, you know, just acknowledging what plants have done for you or are doing for you is the biggest piece. And I mean, you don't have to go up to each plant individually necessarily. Like, I'm not going to go out to a cornfield and pray over each stalk of corn. But I think there's something to be said, not necessarily about praying or saying grace over your meal, but when you sit down to eat a meal, like, just think about where the food came from, all of the work that the plants went through to, produce that fruit or that vegetable. And think about that animal who sacrificed himself to nurture your body, um, along with the farmers that, put their sweat into, making sure their crops grow and all of that. Um, I think the biggest part is just to acknowledge all of the work and love that's gone into sustaining and nurturing our bodies is the key to that.
Now, how do plants feel about being corporate farmed? I would imagine it's similar to what the animals feel, like the
Right. Yeah.
pesticides and all that.
Yeah. I think, it definitely doesn't make them happy. They're not living their best life, unlike you know, a small, garden in your yard is going to be much better if you can, produce your food locally with less pesticides and less junk like that. The happier the plant's going to be and the happier you're going to end up being, I feel like, because that plant will carry on the trauma um, caused by that kind of care, and then that transfers into your body when you consume it.
It's just so hard because so much is so toxic anymore. And
It's
what do you do?
overwhelming. Yeah, it's overwhelming. You just, I guess, just put as much good energy into, cook your food with love, put your heart. I always like, I always say I made it with love.
It
And then,
does matter. It
like
totally
like
matters.
I'll stir the shape of a heart into my food, and I think it does make a small difference, and you know, you know, the universe recognizes baby steps and tiny steps, so it's better than nothing, right? We do
Oh,
what we can
I love
do.
that, Kristen. No, I totally believe that because when you're little and your mom made you a sandwich, that sandwich always tasted like the best damn sandwich in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I
That's
don't know about you, but I could always tell if my mom was mad when she made dinner, it didn't taste as good.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day that we both don't eat out much anymore because there's so much tension and angst in the
Mhm.
collective right now that there's very few places where people are working and they're happy at what they're doing and they're using good ingredients and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but you can taste it when you are. Yeah,
Totally,
when
totally
they are.
taste it. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Kristen, where can people find out more about you? And I will put that in the comments below, but I'm sure people are interested in hearing more from you and maybe getting some assistance for their pets.
Yeah, right now the best way to get a hold of me is through my Facebook page, which is Wildflower Animal Communication and Reiki. Um, they can send me a message through there, and I'll get in touch with them as soon as I can. Um, that's uh, that's the best way. I always have my phone on me, so that's the best and the easiest and quickest.
And know that Kristen has her hands full at home, so give her
I do.
some time to get back to you.
Sometimes it might
Um,
take me a little bit, but I will get back to you, I promise.
and a big pointer for people, what is combining everything that you've learned from pets
Mhm.
or even animals that people have, what is one of the biggest things that people might not think about that they can do for their pets that their pets are craving?
I think the biggest thing is to spend time with them um, without having your mind in a different place. It's just you and the animal, and just give them your undivided attention, even if it's just for a few minutes of petting or grooming or something like that. Just you focus just on the animal. Don't worry about your bills. Don't worry about what you're gonna have for dinner, what you're doing tomorrow. Just enjoy the gift of time that that animal is giving to you and that you're giving to the animal.
Did my cat tell you to say that?
No.
Because he does this thing where he comes, like, I'll be on my phone scrolling and he'll come and sit right there and stare at my face until I engage with him. And
Yes.
I'm like, okay.
Yep. My dog. I have a 100-pound lab mix who will come up to me and flip my phone with his paw right out of my hand. And it's like, well, I guess it's time to pet Chester.
They
Yep,
know,
they'll tell
they
you when
know.
they need it. They can tell you.
They're bringing you into the now moment.
Right. Yep. Get off the device and
And
spend some time with
it's
me.
the perfect way to be in the now moment, really. I know that when I'm with my pet,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when my cat comes up to meditate with me, I always feel like I have a deeper meditation practice, and they, they um they're great.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Kristen, I appreciate you for being here today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. And we'll talk to everybody else another time. Bye bye.
Thank you.